Okay, hi everyone. We'll begin the session now. So welcome to the Introduction to Digital User Experience UX Design Workshop that is organized by Shopee's Product Management Design Challenge 2021. We are very grateful to have NUS-ISS with us today, whose team will be actually hosting this workshop. So to not waste any more time, I'll now pass the time to Sean to actually begin the session. Thank you so much.
Hi, good evening, everyone. What a crowd actually. We have more than 350 people already online. Let's make this evening more fun of learning the new stuff from NUSSS. Let me share my screen. All right, I believe everybody can see my slide. Let me start today's presentation. Okay, because today we only have 2 hours, and we have lots of material to cover. I'm going to use a little bit fast pace, but during the sections, if you have any questions, any things that you don't really understand, we will leave some time for the Q&A, and we also can have follow-up conversations through the emails as well. No problem. So today's topics is introductions of the user experience design. So it's a beginning of understanding of user experience design. And I'm Chiu, and I'm a senior lecturer from NUS-ISS. And the course I teach at the NUS-ISS is Digital User Experience Design. And I'm from the industry background. Actually, I've been served in the e-commerce, consumer electronics, and media, entertainment, fintech. Basically, cover all of the high-tech industry and serve in either in the hardware or software as a UX design or product design practitioners. So at the bottom, there's my emails and also my LinkedIn. You could connect with me to ask follow-up questions if necessary. Okay. I also want to share with you a little bit about NUS-ISS. Actually, NUS-ISS is more of the educations, but really focus on the industry and digital transformations areas. So our vision is enabling digital economics, and that is always learning, always leading. And our mission is to develop the talents and through the educations, apply research and consulting and career services. And we have two track of the programs. One is graduate programs offering in different stacks. And the other one is executive educations, also has different tracks that everybody can see and follow. And if you are interested in, just go to our iss.nus.edu.sg website and you can take a look at the programs there. All right, before we begin, let's put on our mind into this section first. So let's do a little bit scenario role playing. Let's start from asking the question, asking about the problems. Okay. The problem is people are concerned about visiting shop fronts during the COVID. And from store sales drops, they need to leverage digital channels to reach customers in order to bring back the business. That's especially during this pandemic situation. So lots of stores, their business drops. They really need to leverage new channels such as e-commerce site, e-commerce platform like Shopee to increase their sales in some way. So how might we help these stores from using technology such as AR, VR to recreate the customer experience for shoes or sportwear or anything in your mind? And why I'm putting this scenario at the beginning is that during these two days courses, during these 2 day sessions, either the user experience design or product management for tomorrow course, we will also follow this scenario for some of the explanation. So today we will cover three major sections. One, user research method, and the other one, understanding user needs. So yeah, all understand user, right? But why do I put this in the two different sections is that most of the time we think that doing the user research or uh, executing the user research is already equivalent to the understand user needs, but actually they are quite different. So I will explain more in the sections. And the third part is more the principle on the UX design. So I wouldn't go deep because design is a very broad area. So it's not like a simple explanations or like several bullet items that can explain them all. But I will just use particularly like an angle to explain what kind of principles that we really have to care about or follow up. So let's start from the user research side. Okay, when we talk about user research on the digital products, usually for the user research team, most of time we ask you or doing these two type of the research methods. One is we call it qualitative methods, and the other one is quantitative methods. So qualitative methods, probably most of us know that we are doing the user interviews, right? The first thing you think of the user research is to recruit a user in and talk to the users. So this is a baseline about user interview, right? But actually, there are different kind of user interview sections as well, such as focus groups or like ethnographics research or like a shadowing. You go onto the users like an office or go to their home, go to their working scenario and follow them up and to see exactly what's going on during their daily behaviors. So lots of way to understand users, not just only one type of the user research face to face. There are many kind, but the baseline is that we also understand how we talk to the users, right? How to interview the users and what to prepare for the user interview. Actually, the preparation is more important than the interview section itself. And for the quantitative part, most of the time we use the technical code survey, right? Just sending out a survey, questionnaires, and ask users, like scale 1 to 7, what would you like, right? Something like NPS, net promotion net promoting scores, right? That or like a user certification for the product. All those things are the survey format. And the other one is the most common one we use on the internet or e-commerce site is called behavior data analysis, right? I think most of you all familiar with the term web analytic. That's the beginnings of this type of the user research. But at the beginnings, we were more focusing on the more the funnel type of the thing. I will explain a little bit detail later. But by the big data evolving, this kind of big data technology evolving, actually is more and more tools and also methodology we are practicing now. And also, but this is just the same, it's just more of the analysis type. But most important thing is really to see what's the goal of doing that research. So some of the example, for example, bucket test. Probably most of you to see this as an A/B test, right? But why I don't use A/B test as a term, because sometimes you don't only do the A and B by comparison. Sometimes you will spread lots of buckets to do the different comparison. So that's why we call it bucket test. And usability testings, of course. So I'll explain about usability test data. And the other one, this one's hardly practiced on the industry, but I think it's relatively important, is called experimental research. That means that during your, no matter what kind of research you've been in conducting, you really have to set up the goal and also the comparison groups, and do it not just once, but by time being retry it. This kind of the methods more fit into the agile style of project management. So I really recommend it to do this kind of experimental research, to instead of just doing like a single touch of the research method. So this is the landscape of the user research. As you can see, the top part is more of the behavioral part, and bottom part more of the qualitative part, more toward to the emotions and also the attitude issues that when we interview the user directly, right? So I mentioned it earlier. The most important part of the user interview technique is about the preparation. It's not about during the session. You know, during the session, everything should be done already, right? So it just you just go there, talk to the user, interact the user. Of course, designing the questionnaire and designing the questionnaire outline is also important, but that's also part of the preparation as well, right? Understand what you want to ask, what's the purpose of doing these sessions of the user interview. So the first things we have to do for the preparation is to define the research scope, right? Are we going to do uh, like a very large group of the user interview? Are we going to do only regional, or are we going to do only one country, or are we going to do for only one type of the users? So defining the research scope is the beginnings of the user interviews preparations. You got to understand how much time and budget you're going to put in these efforts into this research. And then you start to design your research method, right? Are you going to use focus group? Do you have enough budget, right? At the beginning, define the research group. If the project is too big, we're going to do like several countries in the regions. So maybe our budget is not enough. Then we probably have to conduct the focus group. So then for a user interview, then that's one too many type of the user interview. So then we start to design the user method, user research method, design user research method. And then we need to characterize the users. So we need to segment the users that we want to interview. So clearly we got to understand from not only the demographic point of view, but also the profiles point of view, what kind of type of users that our products are targeting to, right? And what specific type of the segmentations that we are going to interview. And especially for the innovations, I can give you guys a note here. If we are doing the innovations, usually we will look into for the extreme users. We call it extreme users, means that they are more of the expert users, not the novice users. So they know lots of the, they have lots of know-how about the areas that we want to dig in. So in that kind of user, usually they can provide more of the feedback that we don't even ever, we haven't ever thought of before. So, but that's only for the innovation cases though. But if you are doing the product iterations or some things that we already have, some things we know, then maybe just stick on the demographics or the market segmentations point of view. And then because we already have target users, then we start to have a recruitment process, right? What I'm putting here, and everybody thinks this is just administration things, but relatively important is that this is the part really impact the project time frame, right? Recruiting smoothly or not smoothly is going to determine how long this project is going to go. So it's better to prepare early to understand the recruitment guideline and process, and also what kind of the type you're gonna use for the recruitment. You're going to do the internal recruitment or recruits, or you're going to hire the agency to help you to recruit. Are you going to pay the incentive to the agency, or are you going to pay the incentive directly to the users that you recruit? So this kind of thing you really have to think through during the preparation session, so you wouldn't impact the timings later for why you are doing the executing. And then we start to write the scripts of the guidelines, right? Especially for the guidelines, basically we only talk about outlines rather than detailed scripts. So because if you put down the interview detailed scripts, usually the interviewer will just follow the scripts, and this is not a good type of the interview techniques. So basically, I only recommend that you just write a guideline or outlines of the interview scripts, not to go in very detailed formation, because when you are doing the qualitative research, the most important part is we call it observation. During the observations, now I will explain why later. Observation is more important than asking the question and wait for the participants to answer. That's not the right way of doing the user interview. And then we have to run the pilot run, right? That's when we test out is our scripts or our preparation right or not, right? So pilot run is also important. And pilot run, actually, you don't need to use the external participants. You also can recruit the internal participants who are not understand your projects, no backgrounds of your project, and you can ask them to help to for you to run the pilot run as well. And this is an example of the user interview guideline. So basically, you need to have the recruitment user profile, right? Just put down and what's the technology they have. And second part is the introductions. That's help you when the user come in, then you have to introduce the purpose of this user interview. And why this part is important, because the more time you do the user interview, you will realize actually when the users being in that kind of environments being interviewed, they will they will actually intend to give you the answer you want. So through this kind of introduction sections and make your participant relax is very important for conducting a quality interview. So you take this opportunity to, for example, write down like just like a chit chat, right? Just doing chit chat. Calm the participant down, doing chit chat. Where are you from? What kind of transportation you take to join our meeting? Kind of relaxing chit chat, and also let them understand this interview data, the privacy, the consent, they are not gonna be used in public. They are going to use, kind of waive all the concerns the participant have, and also let them understand what they are going through later in the section. So introduction is very important. So don't lots of people, lots of user researchers only focus on the questionnaire they design, right? But actually, lots of the structures, relative importance on the preparation part and questions. So I don't want to really mention about this part, right? Just give the outlines. Like please tell us what you do, right? Just outlines. And why we don't put the specific scripts or specific question is that somehow they will really lead the interviewer to only spend times on reading the scripts, and you will waste lots of time of digging the truth, right? So when you see, I give you one example. One time I went to interview one of the commercial agent, those kind of TV commercial agents, CEO. And then the question to him is that, are you consider yourself as a neat people? How you arrange your electronic stuff, right? And the CEO told us, actually, I'm pretty messy people, right? From this point of view, if you only writing the scripts, you probably get an answer and you put down, you take a note and say, oh, he is a messy people, right? But through this kind of conversation, and you can observe some behavior in his office, actually doesn't look like that, because how he arranged employees chair and desk are very aligned. So in this point, if you have a script, you have to follow the script. You wouldn't ask questions that I following up. I follow up the questions, ask him that, can you open your gym bag? Let me take a look at your gym bag. And then he take out his gym bag and everything is inside his gym bag, and it's all well arranged, well tied, right? So you can see the with the outline questions and also the detailed question will make a difference for the interviewer has more flexibility to focus on the current situation, to focus on the present with the participants rather than just focus on the script itself. And the fourth part, it's optional. So sometimes you can, someone raise the hand, probably take no, we can answer the question later. The fourth part is optional. This part depends on the product phase we are doing, right? So sometimes you can ask users to do the prototype probing, like ask the prototype how you feel about this design. And you also can do the cost sorting or doing some of the IA stuff during the sections as well. When you hiring the participant in, you really can conduct, but that's also has to be designed in the this research scope, right? What are you going to do? So you don't do it over the budget or over the times, right? Actually, doing the user interview is very, very expensive, and on the especially e-commerce industry, lots of the business units already drop this kind of method because it's costly and it has to wait for the longer result, and also that we don't know that the result comes back will be reliable or not. So controlling the budget, controlling the time for the user research is right now is very critical and very, very, it's a relevant issues to the user research teams in this industry. And the fifth part is debriefing. It's also as important as introduction. Debriefing is that when we finish all the section questionnaire and some things that we might have to follow up, something we feel weird, we feel these participants may not answer the right answer, or this participant may hide something. So we need to follow up and dig up. We use these debriefing sections, and we also can use these debriefing sessions to do some of the emotional dig, right? Some mood boards, some of the pictures and inspiration things to interact with the participant, to dig out more of the more relaxing things. So it's kind of rescue sections for entire user interview. So use this well. And also we have to say thank you to the participant and send them off, and maybe next time we have the follow-up questions, or we will put them into our focus group forums for the company as well. Okay, let's qualitative part. And the other part is usability testing. Although I put usability testing on the quantitative part, quantitative research part, but I know lots of people use usability testing on the qualitative part, which I don't recommend, but I know lots of people are doing that. So usability test is it's a evaluation of fundamental evaluation methods for user experience issues. So we discovered users use this just use the testing to go against lots of usability criteria, like easy of use, like usableness, like readiness, or how the participant perform or user performs on your product. So usability testing, I really recommend. I think lots of the companies already doing. They already discussed of this kind of method. They relies on data a lot, but I still strongly recommend, if your company relies on the behavior data a lot, somehow you still need to keep this one alive, because this is also less cost, right? So if you also want to leverage some of the user interaction, user interview, and also that we call it participation design, and we have users to come in to test for us, and it's a good way, and it's also a supplemental methods that to help us not to find some things that we don't discover from our data analysis, because data analysis, we all know that it's the behavioral past data. So when the data happen, that means already passed, right? So we know users have that action, they click on something, they do something, but we don't know the mindset and reason. So we could follow up a usability testing, or to try out and also interview what exactly happened there, right? So usability testing is kind of bridge between the qualitative and the quantitative. So you can leverage this well, but I don't recommend the researchers only take usability testing to ask for the qualitative questions, right? I believe in lots of scenario, they just send out, use this usability testing sections, and ask users to perform on the products and ask them how they feel, right? Well, what's wrong with you? Well, what's wrong with these product features? How can you, cannot you go on, right? So this is more of the qualitative way of the research. But I still think that you need to put on some of the tasks, and also some of the actions for users to test on, and measure something that can be quantified. And the other part we often use also for the saving money sake is heuristic evaluations. So it's a more of the simple versions of the usability test with the smaller group. And sometimes for saving money wise, we ask internal users to do so. Even the designer or product manager ourselves can do that as well, right? It's quite simple. The same methods at the beginnings of the usability testing, right? We prepare the tasks. We prepare the task analysis. We have a script for the task performing, and we had a certain criteria, and then we hit the criteria to understand how the product performs by expert review, by the simple participants join in to review this kind of simple questions. So for the process for the heuristic is similar to the usability test, but simpler version, right? You still need to read the functional requirements and specs. Lots of the designers, specifically designers, they kind of miss this part, right? Sometimes when the product manager pass the request to the designers, they don't pass on entire or complete product requirement documents, or entire complete product specs. So I still recommend that really for all the designers or researchers, so someone who ask you these sections should read through the functional requirements and all the specs, and design their test analysis better. So they know they can construct the journey map for the users. They can construct the text for users to execute. It's very important, because if you don't have a task, clear task for users to perform, then you cannot quantify. You cannot quantify this test. So how you quantify this? That you definitely have to find a test that users can execute it on. And then conducting usability testing, this optional. 304, 3 and 4 is optional. So depends on the time and also investment as well. And record the finding. And some of the guidelines for you to follow, that's a simple part, right? Accessibility. Or we just simply say that visual part, right? How user perceive and how user expect from their visual. And then how product provide the feedbacks, right? Are we do we when we the user click on the button, is the interface give the feedback? Consistency, is the design consistent? Is the buy buttons in this page and the other page are the same, are similar? If they are not the same, what's the purpose of being not the same, right? It doesn't necessary to be like a completely all the same, right? But it really depends on what kind of purpose of you for you to design the page, for you to design the elements of the UI, right? The fourth part is the hierarchies, right? How the structures that we are follow up is these categories or information is more important than this one. Why do we put this categories on this main navigations part, but not a sidebar, right? We need to understand the same, the why are we designing it. And the other part is more of the cognitive, those kind of gesture law. So later on, we will go on more on the design principles. Okay, here are lots, others quantitative methods, right? I mentioned about web analytic, and one tools that you can play around, which is free, and you can use this free example link. It's from Google, right? Google Analytics, so everybody knows it, and it's all out there for public. You can do the trial versions. If you have your own website, you can also copy their JavaScripts and insert it into your web app HTML and run the web analysis by yourself as well. So this kind of method is quite simple. So they can track all your essential data, right? How many users comes up and how many page view, right? Page view and how many unique user view, right? Page view is like counting all the redundant coming back users, right? And the unique users, only one users, one ID, I only count one time. So page view usually is bigger than the unique user views, right? So I think everybody can look on more of the web analytics methods more. But essentially, just some of the data that we need to care about. It really depends on your goal of the business or your goal of the product. So it's not necessary to take a look at all the data. Maybe it doesn't relevant to you. Okay. For example, on this page, there's a second numbers revenue, right? Of course, maybe this is the business goal, right? We all need to hit to that business. But when you talk about setting up the revenue as one of the KPI for the design team or product team, it's indirect. It's really hard for them to meet up, right? Because lots of factors comes together to impact and influence this automatic result. So you cannot just use this and put this as a KPI to one product features. You just cannot do that unless it's a buy button, right? Buy button, then you can do that. But not, it really depends on the goal. So what I would suggest you is that you really need to carefully play around with these kind of tools and identify some of the data, some of the index that you are really looking into. So I didn't put it on this slide, but I can recommend you to look into Google's methodology, Google's framework called GSM or HEART, HEART, HEART framework. GSM, goal, signal, and metrics. And look into it and you will get more sense of how we analyze data. Okay, more data here. This is more of the demographic. How much percentage of the male and female and as such, and also the product click and total events and OS operation systems. So you guys can go on this website and play around and see, yeah, just look at this data. And the other methods that we often use is eye tracking, right? But eye tracking more for the commercialized products wise, more the promotion product wise. If you are doing the product design, usually you don't use eye tracking, right? Eye tracking is for those like a commercial aid, advertisements and see which part is a hot zone, right? When I put the picture here or I design entire this web page, what exactly users are looking at, right, during that moment. So as this picture you can see, this is already become a truth, a fact, right? People always look at the people face. So if you want to catch people's eye attention, I'm not talking about call to action, more of the eye attention. You put the people there, put people image there. You definitely will catch this kind of hot zone. It's just definite. Okay, unless your web page is too cluttered and too much information and kind of being overwhelmed and distracted. Otherwise, once you put down the human face, always catch people's eye attention. So this eye tracking is one of methods to detect the advertisements, or when you design the kind of commercial banners or some things that you really relies on this kind of tool to determine uh, what kind of the section, product section is more important than the others, right? To prioritize the product sorting, then you can use this kind of methodology. And the tools get cheaper and cheaper. So you can buy a couple of, only like a couple of hundreds US dollar eye tracking device on the Amazon. Uh, you probably can find it on Shopee as well. But the most important thing is, I think for lots of the suppliers, they focus on their software. So analytic tools for eye tracking is more expensive than the hardware device itself. But you can purchase those kind of hardware device to play around. Okay, and then comes to the bucket testing, and this is just a A/B testing example, right? Simply, you use the A versions of the product and B version of the product to compare which one runs better. So by running this, you have to do the same. Preparation is quite important. You have to really segment your users really well, right? You cannot test the A modules with male and then test B module with female. It doesn't make sense. So you need to use the same group to test the AB. Then we will realize which one perform better. So designing the same, designing the scope is really important for all the tests. Beginning of the test, you really have to segment your user samples really well. So you wouldn't get those kind of uh, bad result, noise result. And here's one example. Actually, this A/B testing, I don't know if you guys can see the difference. The difference is actually just change the background, right? One is just a palm tree with the sea, beautiful sea background, and the other one changed to the cat, cute cat, right? And change the background image, it's already increased 27% of conversion rate. And then this one, they use the highlights for the search bar. They put a search bar there. And then when they highlight this kind of area, they increase the 550% of the conversion rate. But the same, if you are focusing on conversion rate, you can do that. But you really have to understand your product purpose. Okay, let's just sections of the user research method. I don't cover all of them, but I think I give you already a brief ideas of how we conduct the interview and how we see how the product managers and the designers see those kind of tools for the qualitative and the quantitative research. And you can leverage these tools to find more evidence, find more user insights to support your product ideas and support your innovation ideas. But those are just collecting data, right? We all know that, doing user research, most of the time we just really collecting the data. But how we really analyze the data, that's complete different stories, right? There are lots of ways. I'm not from psychology background. I'm not from statistics background. So what most important I see is that truly finding the user I mean the needs from their actually choose. Sometimes when the user, they couldn't tell you exactly what they need. So that's a famous story. I think probably many of you already know this quote, this story. When the Henry Ford once ever say that if they want to ask what user want during that time, right? If they want to ask user what you want during past, most of that time, most of the customer, most of the people probably will answer, I want a fast horse, right? I want a fast horse, because during that time they only know there's a horse. They don't have automobile yet. So the same thing is for the user interview. If you directly ask user what he want, usually users only can rely on he or her past knowledge, their past knowledge or primes to answer whatever they can answer. So why we cannot just rely on the simple interview, we have to dig deeper to understand user need. It's very important. So the common user feedback you can see for this is from e-commerce side, right? I cannot what I want on the search engine, right? I found that your homepage is too cluttered. Why don't you provide cash on delivery? Yes, I like wish list functions. It helped me to save items I can buy later. Overall, it's good. I like the design. I definitely will use it. How do you interpret these answers from users, right? For I think I observed the lots of researchers, the researcher group or the product group. Most of time, they will group them into the categories, right? So for the first one, they will categorize it into, so we need to improve the search engine. We need to we need to highlight the search engine function. But does that exactly the user want, right? We all also know another story. So when the user come to a store to buy a drill, are they going, is there need a drill, or is their original need is to drill the hole, right? So ask right question, deeper, dig deeper is relatively important for the finding of the user needs. So one of the methods or technique we use is called empathy map, right? Uh, the I think recently there's arguments about uh, empathy map. They say if doing the empathy, if the designer doing the empathy really know the empathy, then this word is perfect. So it's really cannot rely on the empathy. But you can say it's true, but it's not. It's also not true. What I want to emphasize here is that there's a tool to help you to stand on the user's shoes more. That's it, right? And also, when the user really don't know what they need to answer, they cannot answer exactly what they want. This is also a good tools to help you to observe somehow. So you want to you don't want to miss the information. You won't miss the informations that you could catch. So it's just a tool. So forget about the empathy this term. Lots of people like to use the empathy this term, but if you don't like it, you are standing in the other standpoint of the arguments, then yeah, just name them whatever you want. But the key point is that we have to understand, we have to find out when the users tell me one answer, is that a true answer? Or is there something that connect to something else, but in this user's past behavior, past history, past experience, this user hasn't gone through, so he doesn't know that connection. So we need to really look at into different perspective and connect those dots together. So most of time, maybe product marketing team, they will use the methods of why, 5 whys, right? And this is similar to 5 whys. Keep asking whys, right? So what are they doing in the photo? For example, in this picture, if you see as user what they are doing in the photo, they directly will say, oh, they are picking up some trees, right? They are picking root vegetables, right? But if we want to find out the more of the detail of the behavior, then how are they doing it, right? And are they use both hand? Is this stuff too big for them? You know, then you will have more observations on this. And why are they picking up this, right? So this is examples using the different perspective methods to hit against whatever you want to dig out from users. And these ways also help us or help users to really think of something that they never thought or they never experienced before. And the second part, once we collect all the data in, the other part is also the important methods that I want to mention is called downloading and sharing. And why are we doing this? We come up this term again called empathy. Yeah, but whether you like it or not, you because while we are doing project and when we are doing the interview, for the most of the cases, I believe almost nearly 100% of cases, only user researchers go out for the user research, right? And other project team members, except uh, specifically for the those top management, they stay in the company. They are waiting for the results, right? So that's not a good way. When they receive the result, it's already being consolidated and lots of information is already missed. And already they cannot link to that specific place of the situation happen. So downloading and sharing process is very important, I believe, for the user research part, for finding the user needs. This is the methods to create the empathy and also bringing the entire project team, even management, into that particular situation. So when everybody collecting the data back from the user research sections, immediately set up these sections, invite all the project member in, and share with them what you learned during these sections. Print out the pictures, especially visual is very important. Print out the pictures, write in a note, and bring the participants into the that present. That present. They will create those kind of the immersive empathy context, and then building up their more of the thought and imagination to this user, connect the dot to these users. So whether you join the interview section or not, through this kind of practice, through this kind of activity, you can feel like you are also in the present as well. It's very important. And this is two examples, right? So when we do the consolidating, not only getting like a collecting what exactly users say. I couldn't find a user research search engine, right? This part we already do the consolidating, but particularly I want you to see the right part. You can see the blue dot and also the pink dot here, right? And after the consolidations and also couple rounds of the synthesis, we kind of consolidate and these particular participants, particular users, full day, 24 hours, how they spend times on their gauges. So this is already been consolidated, articulate. So this is also important to methods or techniques to do the storytelling as well. And this as well, we did a research on a taxi driver, cab driver. So we saw him has a lot of gauges at the dashboard. So we kind of observe how he interacts all the devices, all the gauges, how he interacts with his phone and iPad, with his customers and also the company. And of course, we did some of the interview questions, right? But most of we are focusing how he exactly interact with all those situations, all those scenarios. And then we come back and do the downloading and sharing, and then we consolidate them together and become this kind of result pictures. It's easier to tell stories. And one technique is very important is to go, we call synthesis, right? Synthesis is to combine combine all the inspirations from data and also from multiple resources and to become a theme or patterns. So how do we do the synthesis? Create your observations, right? You get lots of data, right? You share that, you use the download and sharing, and then we start to use the post-it or other methods to, kind of write down your observation, what you see, what you heard, what you saw, what you heard, and what you get inspired of. You just post it down, and then we start to create the clusters from this, pile of the post-it. And then of course it's just as simple as just drinking water. Name the cluster, right? We have a title, and that's it. Of course, not that's it, right? Then we have to. This is the hardest part. We have to uncover the compelling needs and insight. For most of time, for the team doing this kind of exercise and practice, I think you usually find that some things that people already know, or finding something that you are not that excited, right? So yeah, of course you already have a pile of the category or segmentation, but you still find that this is not inspiring, this is not really exciting, it's yeah. So the most important part, why do we need an extreme user, is to find the outliner, is to find some informations that we never thought of. So that's when I talk about the recruiting, why specifically we are looking for the extreme user, and it will come in handy during these sections. You will get lots of inspiration from something really weird you never thought of. And one time we went to that time we did a stereo study. We went to a extreme user's house. Actually, he's a geek. He was a geek in Bay Area. So entire his living room setup is like a those kind of Star Trek model flagship. So TV here, stereo, and there's a hidden room behind all the stereo, those kind of machine and behind. So we start to understand how he used this kind of machine. It really hit us that what exactly if we going to design something, uh, in mind we have to look at the outliners that this extreme user really think of, but a normal user or novice user never thought of, right? Then we create the opportunity. We uncover more of the compelling situations for the normal from the normal situations. So why are we using extreme users for the innovation? That's most of the important thing. And then we create how might we. This is design thinking. Probably lots of you already recognize that. And the synthesis, it's not that hard. If you practice it, finding the comparing one is hard, but executing it is not that hard. So most of the methods we are using like this, right? We use the context map, we use Jenny map, we use mind map. Most common one I've been using it all the time is 2x2, right? Uh, Cost high, cost low, time spent high, time spent low, right? Inspire more, inspire low, right? So this kind of way you can really cluster your piles of the post-it, and then analyze it and think it and redo it, right? So why are we using the post-it? Because it's easier to kind of tear down and redo it again, rearrange it again with different kind of method, right? You can hit with the different kind of combinations. So by this kind of images, I would say that the most common one I use is 2x2. Almost apply to all the situations, almost apply to all the scenarios. And the other one I use this very often is Maslow disciplines, right? You can kind of put them Wi-Fi essential, and then stack them up, right? Different way, and help us to prioritize the features as well. Okay, let's see. Now it's been an hour. I think let's take a 5 minutes break. If you guys need to use the bathrooms and also drink a water, it's a time to take a rest. And I will also read some of questions and probably uh, let's consolidate some of the question that I can answer from next sections. So So let's now it's 10. Sorry, 8 o'clock. Let's come back at. Don't log off, okay? Just go to fresh up and drink water. Come back at 05. All right. I will be staying here. What are the questions? Okay, it's 05. Let's wait for minutes and we can go on the next section. I will answer some of the questions regard of the user research, but some of them I might not be the right person to answer deeper, but I will try, okay? We will still have a Q&A section later though, but I try to still try to not to let you guys wait too long. How will you find users? Okay, let's start from this one. There are a couple of ways, right? There are a couple of ways, and one way we often use is to find third-party agents to help us. So we only need to provide a criteria and also the filtering questionnaire to this agency and let them help us to recruit. That's one way. If we require for the external participants, right? That's a common way. And the other one is the one we commonly use is to use the internal user. Internal database users means that our current customers. So what you need to do is to go to the business team and require them to provide you some of the customer list. So, but because of a privacy issue, so you still need to get the consent for that as well, right? So you cannot just simply access to the consumer data set that whenever you want. So as long as the users already consent on your service and your product, their information can be shared internally for the purpose of the research. Then you can go to your marketing team, your business team required for the customer list and contact them through the email and send out a questionnaire link for them to fill it up, and you can filter them out and recruit a sample you want. That's a way more commonly for us to find the users. And also a couple of the tools right now they are providing, the online tools. There's another questions about how we do the oversee, right? Couple of the third party agency right now, they are providing the user interview remote tools. And some of them good enough to provide a panel as well, right? User panels as well. But as far as I know, they are not quite really efficient for covering the enough segmentations of the users yet. So it depends on what kind of industry you are in, depends on what kind type of the user you want to find. You probably, if it's not really complicated, you only have like simple demographic concern, then those are good enough, right? So certain age, from age 18 to 35, female, female, male, as such. But if you want something like, for example, you want to find a particularly Shopee user, then of course, yeah, you need to pay more for that service, right? Okay. I think the click stream I just showed you, that's Google Analytics. That's free of access. But like I say, that's just a dummy, right? You got to have your own product to put down the scripts in order to analyze your own app or own web. So my old experience, I was in NUS background. So usually in a company like Shopee, they have a data teams implements all the those kind of data collecting scripts inside. So it's a larger big database behind running all the data collections, and then the BI team will run the data analysis for business inside. So usually, if you work with Shopee, you probably might go to your product manager. Product manager might go to BI, business insight team to gather some of the information you need. But of course, because of the data security issue, usually they don't share all the data. It depends on what you want, what you need. That's it, and just give you a dashboard or the snapshots of it, right? So once when you ask about data, it's really important to give them the right index. Otherwise, they will find you annoying. And also, data security and privacy is also important issue for all of us in the big data era as well. Okay, how might we? HMM stands for how might we. So that's a part of design thinking method. So usually we ask questions from how might we resolve the industry problems of this. So that's part of the terms that we use in the design thinking. And Alex Mark asked about the survey about social influencer. I would say I'm not eligible to answer these questions, but I think from my past experience, yes, I also work for the entertainment media before. It would be a big issue. So usually PR team should be the one who respond. So you probably can find find a PR team, public relationship team to deal with this kind of situation, to come up with a strategy how to deal with that. But as a user-centered design, usually we don't consider them as a part of user. It's still different from our target users. Okay, this is the very typical old questions about the sample size of the survey, right? Usually the survey, I can share with you later. That's a percentage of the survey. Well, if you have like a 10 million people, 10,000 people, usually your sample size should be at least thousands to 2,000. It's just a ballpark. So depends. It really depends. How many interviews should we conduct? This is also depends. It also depends. If you really relies on data storytelling, means that your stakeholders really relies on you give them the solid evidence, and you couldn't find it from big data, from analysis part, from business insight team, then yes, you need to relatively have enough sample. I would recommend you at least 36 people above. Okay, it's going to cost more, right? But that's why I usually say that when you do the user research design or user research strategy, you don't put the user research as part of providing the evidence. It should be drive the stakeholders to understand user research or user design strategies should be just part of providing the insight. Shouldn't be like providing the evidence. So this is also important. Every time when you're trying to use the user research as a way of providing the evidence, never been enough. You will be always questioned. So I will come back for more of the question later. Let's go on for the next section. Let me share my screen. Okay, principle of UX design. I need to say this at the front. We are not teaching design, right? We are not teaching like a prototyping. We don't have time for like learning all those tools today, only 2 hours section. So this is just providing how you see when you conduct the design as from the user experience point of view. What principle from human being that we should really look into. Okay, I think this is like 1 month ago. I went to Maple Tree Business Center. I went there to eat lunch, and that was my first time there. So after lunch, I need to go to the loo. I need to go to the restroom. So I came to the restroom. Actually, I took this picture already after I used the restroom. I used the toilet. But when I was there, I was waiting outside. I would say that's why I put this, right? Technology implementation, very high tech, right? Touch sensor, open the door, and there's a ray ring to show the status, right? Pretty cool, right? Very cutting edge. UI and frosted glass door, right? Illuminate looks really edges as well, right? Illuminate backlight, and the light in the bathrooms can also help shine from this like frosted glass. Looks very modern and popularized for the hand control, right? So yeah, it looks all like a very modern design, very cutting edge design for a toilet, for a public toilet. But the problems I encountered was I was waiting outside for like 5 minutes because the ring is red. Ring is red, and I thought there was someone inside. So I was waiting for outside, and but after 5 minutes, no one's coming out. Then I put my hands on that ring, and it opened. It turned green and opened. So I thought this status is showing me that someone's inside the toilet. I didn't know that if it's only for the controls of opening the door, that's really not necessary for like a turning on the red light, right? The red usually implements as a stop. So I just use this example to explain to you how important, although the product is looking good, but some of the misinformation presentations already misleadings of the users perceptions and also behavior. So why UX design matters. And also I want to kind of lots of people don't understand what's UX, what's UI. So I did this example. Actually, I already know this situation, but I recently I did this more of the study research, just casually. I searched UX job on one of very popular old-fashioned website called Craigslist. Probably you guys know about Craigslist. It's a yellow page website. Provides all kind of information, not only jobs but also lots of categories. Uh, and I search UX, and most of this comes out. It comes up UX and UI/UI, or like artists for hire, right? UX and UI and graphic Photoshop. It seems they all require some part of graphic knowledge. And I search on the Indeed for the Singapore as well. And I search UX. It come up the web designers, right? You got to know HTML, CSS, UI, UX, and UI designers as well. See all the UIs for most of the listing. So it proved my observation actually from quite a while. Actually, I observed that for most of people, they think UX is UI, right? But US UI actually they are different. They somehow kind of overlap each other, but they are not the same. Okay, when we talk about user experience design, it's more the multidisciplinary knowledge, or you can say it's a philosophy. So lots of the disciplines and knowledge inside, including user research, right? Including interaction design, including UI design or graphic design. And then UI designs, sometimes, especially when we are in a team, you refer UI designer as a UI designer. They design for UI, for the interface, right? And some of the UI designers, they have a UX knowledge. So for lots of company, they already don't use the UI term. They kind of merge all the designers into one category called UX design. So that's why UX design team become right now it's a trendy and hottest job title ever. But in the team usually consists of UI designers graphic designers, user researchers, sometimes product managers, project managers, and also some company they even have front end designers and also UX technologists who know how to implement the interface in coding and technology part as well. So UX is more of a broader view. So, but I try to put it here, let you understand. When we talk about UX, usually we focus on the Maslow 3 layers below. Means that we care about if this product works, right? Functional. If this product works first, and then if this product reliable. Is this product reliable? Means that it's not only work but also reliable. It doesn't crash all the time. And then is it usable or convenient? Means easy of use, right? By comparison, it's easier of use. And then above part, UI comes in to make it better. But somehow, I wouldn't say UI definitely on the top, right? UI somehow overlap on the bottom as well. Because when the UI designers understand UX, that means that they already implement some of the UI elements into functional layers and all reliable layers. They use the UI elements to help on this part to be better. For example, when we design a text field, right? How do we represent the text field on a small screen? The UI designer has to think it's easy of use, and when the user click on it, how it respond or feedback, is it reliable for users? So not only the good looking, that's UI designers taking care of only, right? The pleasure, the meaningfulness, but also the nowadays UI designers start to have some of the UX disciplines and also the knowledge, understand how they design thin elements into the UX part. And here's one funny example. You also can find this on the website as well, right? It's a hence the ketchup product. The early time usually ketchup comes with this glass bottle, and good looking, like a very like a nice shape. But every time when you trying to kind of use the ketchup, pour it out, it's really hard. You have to uh, tap the button all the time, right? And sometimes it doesn't come out. Sometimes it comes out a lot and spread out the table. So they redesign it, right? They design it. It's a new shape. And this one, of course, they also consider UI. So it's not bad looking, but they more focus on how it function, right? How it easy to use. So right now they use a gravity. So the bottle is upside down. You can just stand upside down, and it's easy to squeeze because it comes with plastic and soft plastic that you can for users to easy to squeeze. And that's a UX. And this is also the example of the comparison. The above part is Go business side, right? Go business license. You apply the business license on this side. Relatively, it looks nice, right? UI design wise, graphic design wise, or color combinations and material design type, very flat, right? It's a definitely the trendy design fashions. But the NUS library website looks very outdated and old fashioned, right? But think of the perception wise, which design you think is more clear for users to understand. Those are tapes. Those are the tapes division. You can say that if I only ask this usable or functional layers, you definitely will think that library website is better to understand. But look at field side, business licensing side, definitely look better. So as a UX designer, it's the design discipline to consider how you balance this both. And the same, like just like the old user researcher thing, you really need to understand your purpose of this page, purpose of the product, what you're going to provide. So similar question to similar answer to the social influencer one, right? Why social influencer somehow when you design a product you need to care, although they are not users, they are not users, but you have to care because somehow you need to care about it. Maybe PR will involve, marketing will involve, branding will involve. So how we balance this and to analyze which one is more important than which one in this user touch flow journey map It's also one of the jobs that UX designer need to do or product manager need to do. So once you design a website, let's say or app, right? Simply concept of the structure or architectures, it's a funnel. Not all the funnel is equally important. Some pages are important. Some pages are less important. Some elements are important. Some elements are less important. So it's really important to use information architecture knowledge, really think through the purpose of the design, purpose of the product, and use different kind of design method, whether it's visual design or user interface interaction design to distinguish this. If the people you are serving, they don't really care about the beauty of the interface, I think the NUS library one is good enough. So it really depends on what kind of user you are serve. And for the UX design part, I'm going to separate two outline. One is interaction design. So when we talk about interaction design, the fundamental knowledge, it comes from the human-computer interaction. So when we doing the input, right, when the computer come and now the chip is getting smaller and smaller, and the technology changes, right? But you all know that there's a machine or clouds interact with us for the digitalization. So when user input something to the machine will process and output information back to the users, but back to the interface, or the other way around. So maybe there's no input, but like web 1.0, it just share the information on the website, right? And that's the input to the user. So the same thing to the user side has an input, right? Information perception input, and then it goes to our human brain. And that's why for all the I think for most of the UX designer disciplines all learn of the cognitive psychology, right? That's part of the mandatory courses we need to take. Cognitive psychology, how the six senses, five senses, six senses, we perceive all the stimulations in, and how our brain process, how our memory work. There's a long-term memory, short-term memory, and then we use the neural network to trigger our behavior, and then our human behavior changes, and then do the control and action. So basically, it's just a human computer interaction. So interaction design, really we need to care about is how human brain react to the information you provide. And that's also the important principle that I want to bring it to you. That's it. So of course, if you try to search principle of the UX design on the website, it comes up different kind of list, right? And some of them are similar, some of them are overlapped, and some of them are longer, and some of them are shorter. But basically, I just want you to remember, it's the play of human brain. It's just a play of the human brain. So what all you need to understand is how human brain process the information, how they store the information, how they access the information and provide it, and how the memory work. So that's all we need to understand for the principle. But putting onto the UI elements, there are a couple of elements, segmentations that we need to look into. First of all, control. Control, if you put on interface, I already put down the list at the below. You can see buttons, right? And the toggle, checkbox, radio buttons, sliders, stabbers, etc. So those are all the controls that people, users can really put their hand or mouse or whatever people extended uh, limbs can touch to manipulate. Some of them eye tracking, right? Head, and that's another area, neutral behavior and action. And this is also the example from Go Business, right? As you can see, there's a text field. It's also a control. You can see a buttons of the drop down, And my coworker tried to apply this, and but there's also a bad design here. So I want to mention about this example and see even the control of the interface can cause the troubles for the users as well. So when my coworker tried to implement try to select the gender, he couldn't select the gender uh, here because he didn't en- enter, he didn't input the title, the salutation yet. So this interface design to let users to do, I think the intention is to help users to do it one by one, right? From the first sphere to the next sphere. But usually users don't follow whatever rule you set on the background. They do whatever they want to do first. So the radio button usually it's easier for users to respond because it's just a simple click. And when you put down this kind of drop down menu, usually user seeing this kind of type, they will think it's a text field. So their mental load will be higher. They will put to second to do so. And then for this website, they make a constraint. If you don't do this, you cannot do this. So then my coworker just stuck here. So anyway, he figured it out. So he select the first one, and then second one, and then third one, and the fourth one. And this is the citizenship drop-up menu as well. And I think for most of the applications, membership registration, all has this list, right? But the funny thing is that actually we, for the designer, they only need to put down the extra thought on this, right? We are in Singapore, and definitely most of the people apply for the Go business. Most of us are Singaporean, right? So why don't they just put the Singapore at the beginning, right? Or Singapore PR, or regional country at the beginning. But instead, they still put the A to Z order. So that means that they didn't really think through of deeper user experience as well. They just simply hard coded, use the modules to code it, and then it comes out like this. And then the same, if you select the Singapore citizen, if you don't select the Mister, you still couldn't select the gender. And this is the actually this is a compatible issues. When we do the interface design, compatibility actually is one of the key things that all the designer and product manager has to look to. But that really depends on what type of the app or product you are designing. This is the website. So compatibilities of the different browsers also need to be considered. Let's early time maybe they fix it. The day of birth calendar, they couldn't use it on the Chrome, but they could use it on IE. And for the mobile devices, for a mobile app, the same. How the Android design guideline and how the Android users react to the menus and drop down are also different from iOS. That's also the parts that we need to consider as well. Affordance. When I first time I hear affordance, this word is very weird to me. Not familiar, not weird, not familiar. But Donna Normans use the examples of that door handle, right? You see the handle, you know that you're going to hold it and push down. And for the modern age, actually, more and more interface come up, but those kind of affordance interface still remain. And when we talk about affordance, that's also relies on the human cognitive psychology as well, cognitive law. There's a one term called prime. Our brand has a prime. Prime works mysteriously. Actually, maybe it's also genetic. It will pass on the human history as well. So just like a color psychology, when the people see red, usually it means alert, right? Uh, so the prime is also part of the psychology effect that remains on the human DNA. So when you see things, you immediately know how to react. not only based on your own experience, but also based on human beings' intuition. So priming effect play very important for the user interface design as well. I have one example. Like the right side is a volume dials for the stereo, right? That's a long time ago. Probably 10 years ago. My bigger son was only 3 years old, but he never had ever touched it. That time he had never ever touched the stereo or any electronic interface. So one time he sit in front of one of my stereo, and then he extend his hand and reach this dial and just turn the volume. And that time I realized actually some of the interface actually they don't need to be trained. The user don't need to be trained. They immediately react whatever the shape is. They know what to do. So this is called prime. So you all the designers have to leverage the prime more and more, especially going to the digital era, right? The interface doesn't have a physical constraint, doesn't have a physical form. So how do you design it well that the human still can bring up the prime and can do things more intuitively? So these are the examples, but maybe not still not quite examples. It's really hard to find a good examples on the digital format. So on the left side, as you can see, we have two buttons. If you can see, at the button you can see click here for alumni or here for the occupants partners, right? But the funny thing is that this is already the mobile, right? Mobile interface, and they still use the website link style. It's not intuitive, but the next one is just give you a red button. So if you are using the mobile phone for a long time, this kind of digital interface for a long time, you immediately notice these are two buttons. And this is the typical examples of the affordance of interface, digital interface as well, right? A slider, right? And you can easily just recognize it's going to be constrained inside and left and right. It's not going to go up and down, right? So you only can drag left and right. So this is the examples of the affordance on the digital interface. And couple of the examples for the good affordance. Okay, and second part, and also the important part is navigation, right? Everything starts from people navigate things, browse things, right? So this is for the website as well. It doesn't exactly apply to the mobile situation, but conceptually, conceptually, it still has this kind of a segmentation, but it probably wouldn't work on exactly this kind of formation. So global navigation and then local navigation and some of the contextual navigation content and global navigations, right? You go on website, you usually can see a category where you can go and local subcategories, right? And contextual navigation, maybe it's a link, maybe it's other buttons that you can use. But for mobile, it's more discrete. It doesn't really follow those kind of rules, but still there's a navigation as well. If you see most of the apps, especially super app, right? Super app definitely give you the categories. Those are the navigations as well. So see Amazon here, the top part, that's a navigation system. And that the users quickly go through wherever direction or the pathway they want to go. And the left side is a local navigation. So it's more subcategories. And for filters, right? Filters is also part of navigations, right? And that's more of the contextual navigations as well. So you can select and go through different, navigate you to the different combinations of the sortings or listing. And this is a configurator, right? especially you go on the e-commerce site, right? One model maybe comes with different color. One dress maybe comes with different color and sizes. In e-commerce term, right, SKU, right? So different SKU is also a configurator that you can pick up. Those are also navigation system as well. Then feedback. Okay, why feedback important? Because feedback usually it's the solutions to help users to understand current status, right? What exactly going on. And you for most of the good user interface, it's all because they provide the better, just simply provide a better feedback, right? And here example, here is the email attachment upload, right? And it just simply give you an activity uploading message, so the user wouldn't hand theirs, don't know what exactly going on. They cannot send and they cannot do anything else, right? So this feedback dialog box just pop up and saying that you are downloading a message, you are sending a message, or you are attaching the files. And the other feedbacks that been used for a long time, it's called like auto complete, right? When you type on the field, text field, right now, especially on the Google search, they all give you the auto complete. And they are not only doing the auto complete. Right now, they even turn that auto complete into the product, right? Into a new product. They even push the recommendation to you. So they can use that kind of tools also promote the features or promote the product they want you to know, they want you to access to. So they turn the autocomplete feedback into the navigation system as well. So okay, search bar actually is also a navigation system. And search bar right now, nowadays, most of the people already relies on search bar more. So when you come to the websites or services like a Shopee or Amazon or Google, the most click area are usually the search bar. So how you implement the technology or leverage even that small text are critical, right? Just this small, but how can you make a difference from there? That's also the important part when you look at the search bar in as a navigation and as a recommendation tools. And this example of the checkout, right? There's or lots of the wizard interface teach you step by step, and that's also providing it's providing the feedback as well. Okay, we are coming to the second part, visual design. We have to speed up. Okay, layout. Look at this interface. Yeah, it's chaotic, right? Clutters, and actually there's no alignment at all. So it's messy, but I don't know the purpose of it, but I believe they have a reason to design like this. But consider as a good user interface, that this one definitely not a good user interface, because there are lots of distractions and there's no so-called like a layer concept. We don't know which one is important, which one is less important. So you cannot see the element layers here at all. And the other examples that I told you before, the cracks list, I use it very often. And this one, there's no UI design at all, but still a very popular website. And this one, you can see slightly already provide alignment. So look much better, right? Although it still clutters, but looks much better. So when we design for the interface, when you have a content and when you have an element segmentation, one thing you need to consider is called grid system. And grid system has some of the rules, right? You want to have a 2 column, 3 columns, or how many columns, and the margin you have. Right now, there's a trendy visual design called leave blank, right? So how much margins you have. So that all relies on this kind of grid system design. And if you have this grid system design as a design guideline and design principle, it's easier for all the designers and product managers to follow all through the user journeys of the product. So it's really important to define your grid system on your UI interface. This is not only for the consistent part, but also it will help you to design for the responsive product as well, responsive technology, right? Sometimes you need to design for Android big screen form, small screen form, iPad, and all website. If you are not using the native technology, you are using the front-end technologies, then you can rely on this kind of responsive design based on the grid system that you design. So once you have a grid system, actually it's easier for your designer or front-end developers to put the elements on the websites more clear and more aligned. So the visual wise, it will look much better. Readability. Okay. Human being usually how they read, they don't read text. This is the shape the people read, right? So for if there are lots of the information or text, they only read like F patterns. And if they are more, they read only like a Z tab scan. It's more of not read, but more scan. So how you lay out your informations all has to apply this principle, how people read. So if not in the important area, people don't scan, don't put the important information there unless you are going to use some of the prompt method. For example, a very red button there to catch your attention. Otherwise, follow up this, especially for the content text. Colors also matters. Compare with the top part and bottom part, right? The red doesn't really go well with the black in this kind of situation when the typography is kind of thin, right? You couldn't see the red text comes out. And couple of the principle that you can follow, color wheel, primary color, red RGB, right? And then secondary color, you can follow, and then more supplemental color you can use, and some of the combination of color you can use. This is just principle. It doesn't really have to go as recommend, right? It really depends on what kind of website you design. But if you design a website for the readability or for the cleaning, more modern age of design, I still recommend you follow this kind of principle. This is Spotify example. It goes a little bit against the principle with these green buttons, but actually the purpose of this is to call to action, right? Stand out for call to action. And green is also the branding color for Spotify. And for the Facebook, they use the orange color on the people to emphasize the networking. This is more of the branding approach. And this is the studies on the colors, right? Why color matters, right? I just give you a conclusion. Actually, the warmer colors can easily triggers user behavior more, especially on the e-commerce side, right? You call to action. Try not to use the calm color. So when you design something that you really want to call user to behave, use the warmer color, more arousal colors to use. This study is from Berkeley. So if you are interested, you can take a look at that. And image also matters. Good quality of image is not only that, but also relevant image. Look at this UPS images. It doesn't really deliver the purpose of this page. And this one from DHL, DHL is more immersive and also relevant, and care about the quality of the images, and don't use the stock images from those kind of website you purchase, right? It's just not the same, not relevant. Those models are not relevant. And this is the example of banner, how you implement the banners, right? And some of the noise might catch the attentions of your main purpose of the design. And typographic, I just want to bring out some of the key thing. Oh, okay. When you design for different interface, watch out your text size, right? So if you design for the mobile phone, the text shouldn't be too small to read. And the length of the paragraph also has a some of the principle to follow. And try not to use those kind of too close end font, especially on the small device. It's really hard to see it's a COO, right? It's the example. And this is for contrast ratios, color contrast ratio for reference as well. And I will provide the slides, so don't worry. You can take a look at these examples. Alignment. Yes. So I will just simply specify. Try not to use the center align. That's it. That's only the key points I want to mention here. Just try to use the left align all the time. In case that you have the major text you want to emphasize, you might have to use the adjustment. But most of the time, you for the safe, more safe way, just use the left alignment. And UI library, okay. Once you design for things, try to come up your own library elements for reuse purpose. Okay, last section, just those psychologies. This is proximity, right? If you see the color similar, you will think they are grouped together. And similarity, the same. The shape, right? The shape you see different, it's not the same. All color, all alignments kind of disalign. Size and value, and these are all play the roles of the similarity. And continuity, right? Color play the importance of the segmentation as well, although they are lining up together. Okay, closure and connectedness. Okay, so like I say, for most of time, for all the UX principles, you just need to follow up the cognitive psychology part. Basically, human visuals and human brain is easier to trick. So one thing you need to consider is your product goal, and then your product goal onto interface, how you manipulate the design to change to change users behavior. That's the principles of the UX you need to understand here. Others, you can leverage the usability to go against those principles to see if users really understand. Are those interfaces are intuitive enough or not? Okay, that would be end of my today's sections. And I left a couple of minutes for the Q&A. Let's see. Well, Let me start it from the bottom. Uh, okay, for the affordance part, I would say it's really hard to give the good examples on the digital format. But follow up one rule is that can user intuitively understand what exactly actions they need to do? That's good affordance. So for example, if you design the buttons, people still need to spend time to realize is that a button or just a square? Then that means that's not good affordance. So especially right now, the trend is called material design, right? Flat design. It somehow it will cause that kind of issue. So you can see lots of graphic designers try to use shadow or use some kind of the radius to create the feelings of the buttons, to create the difference from the backgrounds. User research methods can use user persona and car sorting. Of course, of course. This is just the step, right? So persona, somehow when you decide the user profile, you can have a persona first, or you can have a persona after you did some of the user research, and then based on those users research and come up the persona. So a persona is not just one time thing. It depends on the purpose you come out the persona. And car sorting the same, right? Just like I mentioned, if you has a product ideas already, or some information that you relies on users to help you to sort out, then you can apply the car sorting method as well. Okay, gestal psychology is just that it's that the same thing with the cognitive psychology that we human have. Our like I say, for the visual wise, our human brain is really easy to be tricked. So you just need to play around with those kind of graphic. You will trick users to take the different directions. For example, if you can search some of 3D flow, and lots of the artists painting on the ground and like a cliffs, right? And people will think that, oh, there's a cliff there, and that's all part of this kind of the cognitive or gestal psychology, illustration. So that's just based on the situations that uh, when our brain perceive things uh, from our eyes may not be exactly or true object. It really depends on how our brain interpret. So what you see is not exactly what exactly it is. Okay, there's a one Latin terms I really like, or Greek term I forgot. It's called qualia. Qualia means that we have 300 people right now here. Uh, when we say red, I say red, and your red is still different from my red. So when I say red, I see this lead button is red, and you see this button is red, but red still have a different red. So our brain still perceive into the different spectrum. And when we see say red, still different red. So that's how our brain's easy to trick us in a way. So when you play around the psychology, when you play around with the brain, it's easier for you to put down UI elements without any solid evidence of user research. That's a trick, right? Because psychology is already there. Okay, let me see. Do mobile also follow same rule of the navigation system? No, I just mentioned no. Navigation system you can see as entries for the pathway, right? So depends on how your mobile product is, right? Some of them are product based. They don't have a funnel, right? So each of the sections of the product are its own homepage. Then you just need a linkage. So your navigation is the each anchors of the linkage. That's your navigation. Depends on how you're going to guide users through your services. Okay, the other one is a follow-up the question. Okay, don't use the user research finding as evidence for the US strategy present to the stakeholders. What I say is that it's not a solid evidence. Once you will do with the like a presentations for the data storytelling, usually the stakeholders will require more. And you know, user research usually is very costly. So you are going to do more for that. You still couldn't compare with the those exactly from those data exactly from generate from machines, right? Those data are quicker. But of course, you cannot only rely on data. So what I say is that if you want to get the result done, try not to always present your user research finding as a solid evidence, not a evidence. Of course, evidence is fine, but what I say is solid evidence. So you should guide your research storytelling into of like a inspiration way of approach. Okay, so not more of the inspiration, more of like a leading the product team, project team uh into the brainstorming, into the understand of the users, into understand of the idea, not just like use those kind of things to argue that you are right, I'm right. Okay, that's what I meant. But yes, you still can use that as evidence. Okay, for UX purpose, usually we one thing I can emphasize is that user center or user participation. So we kind of put users in the front, whether the users really join on the design or brainstorming, or users test on our ideas, or entire ideation process. We have users to give us insight that help us to go on the right way. So it's more of the insights or inspirations or some of the data collections, early data collection for us to have a great better grounds to go up. What are some examples of the quantitative metrics for usability testing? Usually something like task time, right? Task time, or errors. How many errors the user made, and how many pathways that users been like finding. For example, you design a test probably one way, right? But how many pathways that users going around to in order to accomplish that automatic goal. So lots of the quantitative the metrics that you can set up. But I found that lots of people don't really set up that, and it turns up usability testing become one of the user interview. And it's not wrong. It's just that, like I say, right, you don't become that you don't have a solid data evidence to argue, right? So I'm only talking about those kind of argument between stakeholders and the designers, right? So if you want to avoid these sessions, I still strongly recommend put in those kind of the quantitative data in the front. The other one is that why is the feedback like a platform is too cluttered, consider a mistake. I'm not saying it's a mistake. Feedback is feedback, but how team interpret this one, they're easy to make a common mistake. They take this one into the count. So they immediately take action. So for example, they will recommend the product team saying that, hey, our user don't like to clutter things. So make it simple. Is that a right recommendation? No, right? So, but it's easier for the product owners or researchers to give out this kind of confirmation bias statement. So that's the things. That's why I recommend that we really need to dig deeper on what's the purpose of this page and what's the relations of the clutters elements to these users. Okay. Yes, we will provide a link to PPT and also the recorded video in 2 or 3 days. What is the difference between the persona before interview versus after? Okay, the persona, at the beginning is the more of the assumptions based on the target audience that we want to do, right? So it will help you to recruit your participants and also come up the criteria questionnaire better. So that's when we design the before personas. And then after persona is that we already understand and also analyze the user research result and insights, and we start to construct what exactly our product persona or product users going to look like. And that one is solid, right? So this kind of user persona is more like a final stage. You can provide to your product team, you can provide to your marketing team. So that's before and after. Okay, I should we use a value proposition canvas for the user research? You could, but depends on your target audience. Really depends on your target audience. If your audience doesn't really understand the purpose of the business, they might not have a chance to give you a lot of information. So depends on if you are finding the extreme user like I mentioned, yeah, it might helpful. So it's really depends on the target audience that you are recruiting. Do mobile apps also follow the same? Yeah, yes. Okay, I already answered this one. It's just that it's in different navigation form. It's not exactly a navigation form I just present. Then more there was more of the website one. Yes, yes. All right, all right. So for most of you still have a question, feel free to contact me. If I have a chance, I will get back to you gradually. That would be the end of our sections. I'm going to hand back to our host.
Yes. Hi everyone. Thank you so much for attending the session, and we should also take the time to thank NUS-ISS for taking their time and teaching us many things today. So thank you all for attending once again. I'll officially end the session. Okay. Thank you all so much. Bye bye.